Ohio's recreational cannabis program, launched just over a year ago, could face major changes in 2025. Despite the program being approved by voters and operating for only 4 months, lawmakers are looking to address what they see as flaws in the current system. Outgoing Senate President Matt Huffman, who is poised to take on a leadership role as House Speaker next year, is leading the charge for reform. Huffman has been a vocal critic of aspects of the voter-approved law. One of his key concerns is the home cultivation allowance, which currently permits households with 2 or more adults to grow up to 12 cannabis plants. Huffman has argued that this quantity is excessive and could enable illegal resale. He must not have heard that we had a 99 plant count in Colorado. He supports slashing the limit to 6 plants, saying the only reason that someone would grow that much is to resell it. That's not true. This change is just one piece of border overhaul introduced by Huffman and 28 other senators last year. The proposed bill also included measures to limit product potency, increase sales tax on cannabis, and reallocate tax revenues. While the bill has stalled since then, Huffman insists it still serves as a strong framework for improving the program. Another contentious issue is how marijuana laws interact with hemp regulations. Huffman believes marijuana and hemp provisions should be addressed together in a single bill, a move that previously faced pushback from House lawmakers. During the current lame duck session, lawmakers are debating a separate bill that would ban the sale of Delta-8 THC and other hemp-derived products, imposing criminal penalties on violators. The cannabis industry has largely supported stricter oversight of unregulated hemp products, but opposes extending similar mandates to its already regulated market. Huffman's legislative agenda will likely have significant influence as he transitions into the House top leadership role. Term limited in the Senate, he won a House seat in November and was selected as Speaker by caucus shortly afterwards. Meanwhile, Senator Rob McCauley, Huffman's successor as Senate President, also supports the 2023 reform framework, signaling broad Republican backing for these changes. With Ohio's recreational cannabis market still in its early stages, the decisions made in 2025 could have a lasting impact on the state's approach to legalization, regulation, and enforcement. Lawmakers and stakeholders will be watching closely as the legislative session begins next year. So there's a decent amount to unpack here. Shout out to Ohio for saying, hey, this doesn't work, but maybe they should start addressing things like, we don't want to buy a 10th, we want to buy a fucking 8th. Mm-hmm. Or there are reasons, especially if you have a chronically ill family member, that you need 12 plants. You need enough to extract. You need this, you need that. 12 plants is not excessive. We paid quite a large amount to have a very large extended plant count in Colorado. Yes, we did that for a reason, and it wasn't always for caregivers, right? But 12 plants is not excessive. I think that there's a big gap here in Ohio between the lawmakers and their functional understanding of what this industry is and what patients' needs are. So I'll throw it back to you guys. I'm sure I'll have some more to put in there as we go on, but I would love to hear what everybody else thinks.
Ohio. And there was no mention of Nick Lachey in this article, huh, Jenny Beth?
I mean, listen, it's his fault. We know it's his fault.
We all know it's Nick Lachey's fault. He's the whole
Bastard.
reason for all of this going on in Ohio. I mean, I guess it is good that they are addressing this. I agree with you on that, Jenny Beth. But there's so many problems with Ohio's market, and especially you brought up the fact that they sell these tents. And we covered a story last week where consumers are feeling like they are getting shafted by purchasing tents when they could just be driving to Michigan and paying cheaper prices and getting full ACE as opposed to tents. It's almost It's almost
That's
like
what the story was.
Yeah, it's almost like all of a sudden the state of Ohio is basically pinching your bag before they sell it to you.
Jason, do you think they're saying that these big ball trappers that are growing 12 plants a fucking household didn't have enough to sustain people, so they're driving to Michigan?
Big plants. The bigger the plants, the bigger the harvest. Yeah, big plants.
Huge plants.
Huge, yes.
Huge.
I mean, Jordan, Ohio is a pretty investor-friendly market, wouldn't you say? Do you guys have any deployments out there in the Ohio market?
We do, yes. We're invested in PharmaCann, who's got a large footprint in Ohio. Mm-hmm. I'm actually from Cincinnati originally, and so we're very bullish on the Ohio market. I was just out doing an acid tour of another operator we're looking to partner with. And yeah, I think all the issues you highlighted there, Jenny, are spot on, right? We've got super cheap priced flower in Michigan in particular that you have to compete with, right? So like, for example, some of the dispensaries I checked out, one was in Cincinnati, one was, an hour and a half north of Cincinnati, still at least an hour and a half from Michigan. but the pricing had to be 40% cheaper than other dispensary just to compete with Michigan, right? The tenths is an issue. The fact that you can't sell pre-rolls or grinders or, lighters, like they definitely need to fix some of that stuff up to get it up and running effectively. But nonetheless, in the meantime, it does seem like adult use is really starting to make a real impact. And I think a lot of stores there are probably 2xing the revenues they were doing before it.
That's a great point right there. That is a great point. And what do you think about this, Jess? Ohio, bro. Any thoughts on this?
I'm super lost on the fact that we crossed 5,000 subscribers this morning.
I was going to mention that. I was going to mention that in the promo, Jess.
Oh,
yes. Thank you to everyone subscribing.
I was not paying attention to anything. I was we got over 5,000. I was crawling through stuff.
Not to mention, we got over 125 people watching right now on this live just on YouTube and on X. We got a decent 37 people on our X, and so make sure that you are following us on X, High at 9 News, especially if you have a blue check mark next to your account, because we're trying to get to 500 followers on X. So please help us out with this.
Mm-hmm. If we get to 10,000 subscribers, I'll be on time every day, and Jason won't have to bitch at me anymore.
Really? You guys heard that? We're about, Adam, make sure you make a note of this, okay? Because all we need is for all of our subscribers, all 5,000 plus of you, to just share this with one friend, and make them subscribe. And then all of a sudden we'll be at 10,000 overnight. If you guys could all do that, we would super appreciate it. Make sure that you share the show and whatnot. Russell, you have any thoughts on this before we move on?
Well, I know that I have a client here in that advertises in Texas with us on our podcast and our magazine here in Austin, and he's based in Cleveland, but he produces drink beverages of the Delta 8, Delta 9 variety, and he does this all over the state, provides them all over the Midwest to many clients, and so I know that he's been paying a lot of attention to that. I'm on the hemp side, like a lot of my clients are, so I know that the governor was working on some kind of emergency bill, and so they were all following, legislative movement in the last few weeks. I haven't followed up on what's going on with there. So hearing about this story here is, just kind of brings that forward for the Delta 8 market. And so if they do decide to legislate with a future bill that regulates both marijuana and hemp at the same time, that's probably a positive move. But it affects me just only because I have a couple of clients in Ohio, and I hear about this from them as a major concern.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. Are you bullish on this beverage market? Because I think it's total bullshit.
What do you mean, the THC?
You think this THC beverage market is really going somewhere? These people just hype it up with press release after press release, saying how it's going to be so great and but yet it's still so small percentage of the market share.
Well, it's the smallest sector of the market, so of course it's
teeny baby.
It takes very small changes to grow.
You know what's growing faster than the beverage
gummies?
market? Parody gummies. You know what else is growing faster? Even that is the senior market purchasing cannabis is even growing faster than the beverage market, and everyone just wants to hype up this beverage market and throw out their press releases and put their seltzers.
Well, the senior market, Jason, started smoking cannabis in the '60s, so it's.
I think that's a little judgmental. They could have started smoking in the '50s. They could have been. They could have been rebel rousers.
That's the baby boomer generation. They're they were the guys. That's my parents' generation.
Mm-hmm.
They're the guys that are doing cannabis, coming back to it now for not so much the recreational side of the plant, but more for medicinal. Heal that knee and work on that tennis elbow or what have you. My parents' generation, like a lot of others, especially here in Texas, are taking advantage of that. And we interview a lot of people on our show that talk about the retailers that we interview. They can't, time and time again, it's grandma and grandpa that's coming in. Of that 50 plus market is 50% of their business for a lot of the retailers that we interview on our podcast. And so I think that the baby boomer generation is coming full circle with cannabis.
Look at that, full circle. I prefer figure eights, but nonetheless.